Hey, I'm Audra Carroll, and this is Coming in Hot, where my guest and myself mostly talk about mindset theories and real practical ways that you can improve your lifestyle, your relationships, your health, and yourself. Were you able to hear that, Miss Heidi?
What's that?
Oh, I whispered something. My bladder's telling me that I'm anxious. I'm online, aren't I? I'm live. Welcome, everybody, coming in hot. We'll have to cut all that out later. We're live, Miss Heidi.
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to do a proper introduction. So good evening, everybody, and welcome to Coming in Hot. I'm Audra Carroll, where my guest and myself mostly talk about mindset theories and real practical ways that you can improve your lifestyle, your health, and yourself. And I am giddy with excitement about having Dr. Heidi Hoke on tonight. We were able to meet at Celtic Fest briefly, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She has a Master's of Science degree in, now you're going to have to correct me if I say these words wrong.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it homeopathy?
Homeopathy.
Awesome. Dual doctorate in naturopathy.
Naturopathy.
Ooh, see. And holistic health. She's a certified hypnotherapist, and she has a lot of knowledge and background in herbalism or herbalist, Reiki, natural science, nutritional science. This word I was not very familiar with. The one you said, how did you say that?
I have a nutraceuticals company, a commercial nutraceuticals company. But are you referring to orthomolecular nutrition?
Oh no, that's way over my head.
Okay. Homeoprophylaxis, is that in there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That we do? Yes, that I do. Uh-huh.
And then she is the founder of the Vitae Pondera Institute of Natural Health, and has her own podcast as well called Vibrational Perspectives. And this evening, we wanted to talk some more about the connections between biology and vibrational energy, and maybe demystify it a little bit more and talk about why people don't heal. So,
okay, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No questions. That's good.
Oh yeah, I have note cards for days. So now, vibrational energy, I guess, can I ask you, is that something that you always were aware of, or did you always have that awareness? Is this something you were brought up in? Because I was not. It wasn't something I was really aware of.
No.
Yeah.
No. I was brought up a daughter of a Methodist minister, and we never really, I don't believe in the conventional Christian religion that there's a lot of understanding about the relevance of our belief system and energy, vibrational energy, and that healing, prayer, meditation is all a part of vibrational medicine. I don't think we're ever, that's not even brought out. In fact, it may be even in some belief systems to be quite discouraged, because it empowers people. It really does empower people. But not to get off on that,
well, I'm going to chime in. That
okay,
was my experience coming in hot. I'm telling you, that's been my experience. That's exactly what it was. I felt actually pushed away from the type of relationship that I feel like I have now with my higher power, with God. So I feel exactly what you're saying, being brought up in a Southern Baptist type background. And I feel now that, you know, it was discouraged, I think, a lot of times, unfortunately, and it stunted my personal growth as a person.
I think, you know, I really don't know where to start, because this whole experience in my 62 years have been very, very textured. But I will say that my greatest, most profound understanding of vibrational medicine and what it was, although I didn't have a label for it, I didn't have a term for it, I didn't understand it, I only understood it through experience, was through a near-death experience that I had when I was at the age of, I guess around 30. I was around 30 years old. And through that experience, it really forced me to expand. I won't say I abandoned my belief system, but it certainly did expand it into an extent that was really not acceptable within the confines of traditional religion, you know, within the Christian church. So it was a kind of a place which I had to be at peace with moving in a philosophy and a theology that was real for me, based on the experiences that I had in that near-death experience. So to go back beyond that, when I was at the age of 13, I began having what our family just referred to as attacks, because we didn't know what they were. I had thought that they were everything from demonic possession to who knows what. They were never diagnosed, and as it turns out, they were seizures. They were seizures. I was epileptic, and no one knew it. No one diagnosed it.
Wow.
And so they were, you know, always, they were undiagnosed, and they would come, and no one would know what they were, and they were odd, and they were mysterious, and they had a, you know, at that time in a young person's life, preteen and teenage years, it really takes a toll on your self-esteem and self-image. And aside from that, I had always had a very severe stuttering problem since I was 3 or 4 years old, since I was able to talk. And my parents did such a wonderful and thorough job in getting the help that was available at the time, but nothing was successful. And the stuttering got worse and worse and worse. The attacks got worse and worse and worse. And to the place where I think it really did have a very profound effect on the way I interacted in life, you know. So at the age of 30, I had a near-death experience, and that experience in itself is another show. I would love to go into it, but it is another show. It was a pretty profound experience that I had that was very, I think it would be very similar to, I think it could be said to have been similar to maybe a friendly abduction. And so I had that experience, returned, and I was told in that experience that things were going to get worse before they got better. And I went through that experience being downloaded with the information that I needed to come back and continue. Well, it did get worse. It did get worse. And within 10 years, everything just catapulted to the place to where I had kind of built my life around my whole career structure, being able to earn a living, around being sick with seizures and not being able to speak to people. So where that ended up landing me is in a cubicle doing technical illustration, technical publishing. And it was something I enjoyed. It was something that I could do without having to interact with people. And all I had to do was just sit behind a computer and produce work. And it suited me fine. And through all that, that time of turmoil, marriages did not last. They didn't last long. I had gone through 3 marriages with 3 children, and I was a single mom. One day I had 12 seizures in my cubicle before they could get me to ER. And I was brought out of that. But 2 weeks later, it happened again, and I didn't come out of that so well. And so I was in a vegetative state for some time. Of course, I lost my job and my home and my ability to drive. Furthermore, the loss of the ability to even feed myself. And I was under the care of my mom and dad, who was doing the best that they could. They were becoming elderly. They took my youngest child to care for her. The other 2 went with their father. Everything was, everybody was just doing the best they could.
Yeah.
And I went into a very, very deep state of very intense state of questioning why was I brought out of this? It would have been just easier on everybody had I just, died, just not come back. But there was purpose in that. And through that process, I was able to realize that as I had been through 8 neurologists and 2 I'm sorry, the doctors that deal with epilepsy, epileptologists, and then neuropsychiatrists, there was nothing else to do but to explore natural medicine. And I kind of had that download. Of course, my mom was a real nutritional freak in the 60s when Adele Davis wrote all of her books. And Adele Davis, if you're not in your 60s, you wouldn't know Adele Davis, but she was the pioneer of nutritional healing, actually, in the 60s. So, I had been brought up with that, and it occurred to me that this was an option that I had never explored. And so I went on a quest to self-heal through natural medicine. And being in that vegetative state, to answer your question now, that was how I learned about vibrational medicine. And I didn't have a term for it, but I've done a lot of lectures, and people have asked me, if you're in that vegetative state, how did you come out of it? How did you know to do what you did? And I can say that there was a process to it. And in my state, I was having a seizure about every 2 to 4 hours. So I didn't have time to recover from one seizure until the next one came. And I was completely medically treatment resistant. None of the drugs were working for me. So, in that process, I was in an altered state all the time. So it was easy for me to begin to employ vibrational, energetic techniques of being able to manage my existence in an altered state. So I can, as I look back, I taught myself visualization. I taught myself self-hypnosis. I taught myself energy healing. I taught myself how to connect the energy within my brain to be able to make changes within my physiological state. So I began to work on decreasing the frequency of the seizures and decreasing the intensity and the severity of the seizures through mind control. And it's not on, you can't control, you can't emotion control yourself out of a seizure, but you can mind control yourself out of a seizure. It's very different because it's not on a conscious level. It's on a higher consciousness level.
Yes.
And it's on an energetic level. It's on a vibrational level in which those then I begin to click into that. And there was one time that I was at I'd had such a horrible seizure, and I felt like I was not making good progress. And I just prayed. I said, you know, what do I do? What do I do now? You know, I knew I was vulnerable to suicide, and I knew that I had a lot of medicine that wasn't doing me a lot of good. And I was afraid of myself in that circumstance. And so after one seizure, I remember thinking, I've got to get rid of this. And so I grabbed all the medicine I had, crawled to the bathroom, threw every bit of it into the toilet, and just flushed. And at the time, I was living in a 35-foot RV, so the bathroom was only about 6 feet away. I could crawl to the toilet, you know, and crawled back and just cried. I went into about a 3-day sleep after that, and I really believe that was a divine sleep. It was almost like a Sleeping Beauty experience of being put into a state of coma, kind of, and in a way it was kind of a comatose. And when I woke up, I felt very different, and I think there was a healing. Something happened there. There was a definite healing process that happened in that experience. And I was living with my partner at the time, and I asked him if he could take me to Barnes and Noble. At that time, Google was not, really well developed, and we didn't have internet like we do now. Yeah. And I said, do you think you could kind of like carry me into Barnes and Noble? Can we do that? And he was thrilled to death. And he said, sure, we're going to Barnes and Noble. We'll get you there somehow. We'll make it through. We'll get you there. And so he carried me into Barnes and Noble, walked me through an aisle, and there was a particular book that he, to this very day, will swear that he saw the book like being thrown out of the shelf.
Wow.
And when it landed on the floor, the title of it was Natural Healing of Epilepsy. And I picked it up and I gave it to him. I said, this is the book I'm going to read first. Mm-hmm. And then I went through and just put my hands on the books. Mm-hmm. And I felt for the first one that felt warm to me, that I felt an energetic attraction to. Mm-hmm. And that was Prescriptions for Natural Healing. It was about 2 inches thick. And at this point, you have to understand, my cognitive skills were not good. I would have to read a sentence 2, 3, 4 times sometimes to understand it. But I had all day long between seizures to be able to get some sort of relevance of something out of this. And we immediately went home. I had all the books that I felt that I needed at the time. And I just began to read, and I began to just implement all of the different, protocols for controlling seizures. And there was, I noticed a lot of them didn't include supplements. They were natural healing through energetic and vibrational frequency. And that, I had never heard about the power within your own mind and your own body as an electromagnetic current, and how we have such a power within us to modify and change everything from our expression of DNA. We may not be able to change the code of the DNA, but we can actually alter the expression that code is representative of within our own DNA. And I just began to explore natural healing, and I could tell that I was running out of my resources. I had read as many books as I knew to read, and had gathered as much information, and had exhausted Google. And so I began to try to find a school, and the only school I could find was online, and I couldn't drive anyway. I was still having seizures, but they were getting better. And so I just enrolled in the only school I knew of that I could find, and a certification turned into 12 years of very intense study with 2 doctorates. And after about 7 years, I was completely recovered from all of it. I divorced myself from conventional medicine probably took me about 5 years. I kind of went in and out with neurologists, but none of the medications worked, and they had run out of medications to try. We had tried them all, and I had later had a definitive diagnosis of Tourette's and treatment-resistant epilepsy. And then I did the math one day just because I had nothing else to do that day. Did the math. I had figured I had, in that 35-year period, I'd probably suffered around 30 to 50,000 grand mal seizures. And, that's got to take a toll on a brain, So they had said that probably the amount and the frequencies of the seizures had caused some chemical imbalances that kind of suggested bipolar. So I was able to, navigate myself through all 3 of those through natural medicine, and came up with my own protocol, and went through 12 years of schooling, got my degrees, and opened up a practice specializing in natural, I'll say, I think the best way of describing it would be naturopathic neurology. So I kind of specialize in Parkinson's, ADHD, autism, epilepsy, all of those neurodegenerative diseases. That's kind of my forte, because I understand neurology from both sides.
Right.
I understand, behavioral issues, and I understand the relevance of vibrational medicine, how that can be a really good way of beginning your focus. The brain is a vibrational machine.
It's amazing.
It is vibration. It is vibration. It is frequency. Yeah. And everything physiological about the brain is secondary to the energetic element of the brain.
Absolutely.
And so as a result, I tend to gravitate toward energetic modalities, which is inclusive of homeopathy and homeoprophylaxis. And just to name a few, what you would consider vibrational medicine would be homeopathy, homeoprophylaxis, all of your Rife type equipment, sound therapy, art therapy, music therapy, meditation, prayer. All of those are forms of vibrational medicine.
Yeah.
If you're talking about the vapors and the vibrational frequency of even herbs and essential oils, see, herbs are kind of get to play on both sides of the fence because they are chemical, but because they're chemical, those chemistries also emit a vibrational frequency, very significant vibrational frequency.
Right.
To the point where if you mix it with other energetic modalities, it can have either a negative or a positive effect on those. But I think it kind of blows my mind when you really think that every single thing has vibrational frequency, whether it's organic or not. A rock has its own vibrational frequency, and nothing that we see as being solid is solid. Nothing is solid. Yeah. Nothing is. It's just a matter of molecules and atoms that are vibrating at a level that our eye cannot distinguish that movement, and it looks solid, but nothing is solid.
You explained that perfectly. That concept, and I mean, it blows my mind too every time I sit and I think about it. And I mean, honestly, after the experiences I've had and retaining this knowledge now, I sit and there are times when I just look at the world in a completely different way. It's the awareness is what it is. Having the awareness now, because I took some medical classes, and there's a lot of people that are listening that have taken medical classes and have somewhat of a background and a little bit of a knowledge in this and a little bit of a knowledge in that, and biology and chemistry and things. But we learn those things a little bit, but then I don't feel like we really understand how to convey them in real life, or we take them for granted, I guess. Maybe that's a better way of putting it. It's almost like it's just dismissed that, like you said, nothing is really solid. This piece of paper is not solid.
Yeah.
But we all walk around and we act every day like it is. And that's part of what holds people back.
Well, it puts us in a mindset that nothing can be changed or altered.
Yes. Exactly.
When you really understand that everything is fluid, anything can be changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I believe that the change that happened in me, just from a point of being able to not know how to work a spoon, because I do remember. My memory of some things are fuzzy, but some things I remember really profoundly clearly. And I think it was because I was meant to remember that, And I do remember one day I was sitting up in bed. My husband had me all propped up in bed, and there was this plate of food and a spoon. And he said, "Are you hungry? Are you hungry?" I couldn't answer. And I was so hungry, but I didn't know how to work the spoon. And I couldn't communicate that I didn't know how to work the spoon. And I knew what it was for, but I didn't know how to get it to my mouth. And he said, "Oh, you're not hungry." I mean, no, I am. I just feed me, And so that being able to get beyond those kind of challenges to where I am now.
You're a walking testimony.
All I can say is by the grace of God.
Yeah, I mean,
by the grace of God, by the grace of God. And I remember saying to myself, and I really got to know God in a different way, and he got cussed out a lot, And he my my God and I got to know each other really well, and we both grew up, and we grew up together, and I am very, very grateful for the experience that I had, if for no other reason, to be able to expand a higher, a, a, an understanding of a higher consciousness and the divinity of within. And I think probably one of the most, my single turning point of healing was when I was able to lay in bed with no control over any of my body whatsoever, and being able to come to a place that where I could fully realize that my soul and the value of me as a soul, as a divine soul, was not dependent on my abilities within my physical body. That my divinity and my value was far beyond my physical limitations or my physical shell.
Mm-hmm.
And when I began to be okay and loving and accepting of myself in that complete helpless state,
Mm-hmm.
that's when I began to heal. Because that was the point where the vibrational frequency of my empowerment, my self-love, my self-acceptance, and all of that began to raise. And as that rose, healing began.
Mm-hmm.
Healing began. And I was then able to distinguish and navigate myself through the next modality. I've done this, okay, it's time to do this. Then it's time to do this. And I was literally in my own protocol of rehabilitation
Mm-hmm.
for 7 years. But and I think that's a wonderful number. I think that was significant. That was, and so that is what it is. that's how I am now. And I promised there were people that I learned Reiki. I had a beautiful Reiki master that came to me, and she would do Reiki on me, and she would teach me self Reiki, and I got certified in Reiki, and then began to teach others, and the more I taught others, the stronger I got within myself, and all of that just blossomed. But I think that was that modality was a very profound turning point. And as I was able to grow and develop within a higher consciousness, I was just able to understand the direction that I was being guided toward. And it just blossomed. It was just a very peaceful understanding of what to do next.
Do you feel like it was part of a relinquishing of maybe control in a way?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It was called humility by force.
Yeah, right.
Humility by force, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. When you realize you're the greatest power comes by giving up control. And I can tell you, my power was born through the conscious understanding that I had to give up control.
Yeah.
And it's talked about in that wonderful book, Force, Power versus Force. It's a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. It talks about the frequencies of emotion and of mental state, and how those frequencies can be measured, and how when you walk into a room, the force of the power of high vibrational frequencies are stronger than the force of lower frequencies. So the lower frequencies you get, the higher force is present. Anger, all of these things that you think of, anger and depression, and there's like a lot of them. But anyway, so the lower you go in frequency is higher in force, and then as you go up, relinquish the force into true empowerment.
We were talking about, we walk around in this 3D world, and we experience energy all the time, and so many people don't think that they feel it. But if you ask them, let's say, what did it feel like when you walked into that concert? Or that's like the first thing I think of as a concert. When you have a big group of people, they're there for a common reason or whatever, the energy is always going to be raised. That feeling that you had at that concert that was awesome, that was real energy. That was not like,
oh yeah,
it's real.
Oh, you have it many times over. Not only do you have the vibration of the music, like I'm a big one going to concerts, and man, I have had many years of nine-inch nail moments, and I have always been drawn to really intense, angry music, and I just love it. It just puts me on a high, and there is just a frequency about certain music that that creates a repetition of experience. And so you walk into a concert, and you've got first of all, the energy of the crowd, but you've got the energy of the music, the energy that the music, of the effect that the music is having on the crowd. And then the energetic frequencies that are bouncing off, absolutely, literally bouncing off of each person. Yeah. It's amazing. And that's why there's something different about going to a concert than just listening on a download or something. It is, you get it on one level, but you don't get it on the full level.
I totally agree. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of people have been isolated for a while, and I know everybody cannot wait to get out and again, be able to move about, 100% freely like they felt like they could before. And I hope that people will take some information from this show and be able to maybe start to feel some of the energies that are around and start to become more aware of the energies around and how they actually affect them. Because like you said, with the positive and the negative energy, everyone is vibrating at a different energy, and the energy levels can change from, one moment to the next, honestly, depending upon who you're around, what places you're at, all kinds of external influences and things like that. Just reading through some of these, through some of the things that I had read on, what was this little website? I wrote it down somewhere. It was like wellandgood.com or something another. I think it was something another. And they were talking about different ways that you can raise your vibrational energy. And chime in with any of them that you had. I literally just copied some of these down and added some to it, but smudging. People are so weird about smudging. Why? Smudging is so good. So good for you.
Why do you think they're weird about it? I know you're right.
I'm not weird about it.
I know you're right. I've seen it myself. I don't know why they're weird about it.
I don't either.
I think it's because they don't understand it.
Exactly.
They don't understand the science behind it. But there is a science behind it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see, morning rituals, which you kind of talked about that too. You were creating and probably adjusting your ritual as you went every day, as you were rewiring your brain essentially.
Yeah.
Into doing that. And I think that's so important too. Some of the ones that prayer, meditation you talked about.
My ritual right now is a pot of coffee. Thank you.
Reiki?
I'm sorry. Yes, Reiki. Mm-hmm.
Yes. That is something that I would like to know more about. I know I do yoga here and there, but I don't know much about Reiki, which I know it's not the same thing, but
Reiki is just the most beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful energetic modalities I can imagine, and it breaks my heart that, which is another soapbox I won't get into. The social distancing concerns me. It does, because I feel that there's more damage to the immune system by not having physical contact with people.
yeah, I totally agree.
But Reiki is a hands-on. It can be hands-off. I mean, you can do it either way. But for me, as a Reiki master, I'm a hands-on Reiki practitioner, and it's the energetic exchange of the energy through the palms of the hands on the body, and that energetic exchange to balance the chakras. And it's such a beautiful exchange. I love it. I love it.
Mirror work. That's something that I think is extremely important too, especially for someone who is in a negative mindset, low vibration, things like that. It's important to, I don't want to call it fake it till you make it, because I don't really believe that's what it is. But it's a matter of practicing the act of rewiring your brain and teaching yourself that all of the things I guess you're trying to manifest or you're trying to change or become. And I think it's important that you look yourself in the mirror as often as possible and tell these things to yourself.
And I really want to defend, on, to your point, I want to defend that cliche of fake it till you make it, because I've used it before, and it's oftentimes what I feel I did have to do. I think there's a fine line between insincerity and intention.
Yes.
And sometimes you just have to be okay with feeling a little bit insincere, to be able to cross over that line to say, I'm going to do this whether I feel it or not. Because the act of doing it, whether you feel it or not, the act of doing it makes the vibration higher. And it dictates that wonderful exchange between energy and action. And there were many times that I claimed to be more well than I really was, because that was my intent. And there were many times when I did not admit to having seizures when I did, because it was my intent that I have fewer seizures than I did. So that, do you see where I'm coming from?
Absolutely.
So it is a part of the intent that makes you have to feel a little comfortable, feeling a little bit disingenuous as you're in that process.
Yes.
So to your point, I think that's a good point that you make.
I mean, I totally agree with everything.
Do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just do it. My pastor had brought up something about that today. He was talking about, those moments in time when you catch your mind, it just racing all of these thoughts about what you've got to do and get done, and just everyday life, and he said, have you ever thought about just sitting there and taking a few moments out and just meditating for a minute, just breathe for a minute, just pray. And that was something that was actually on this, that was listed on this as a tip that you could use, is to stop throughout the day momentarily to do like a mini meditation, or what were some of the things like that. And I think that is also extremely underrated with all of the energies that we have coming from all of the things around us all the time. I think that if you need to take a break, you're looked at as if you are weak or something another like that, instead of, I think that taking a break a lot of times, like you said, taking that step back is what allows you to push forward into the next step. And I know that that helps me a lot of times throughout the day. There's many times where I might take two or 3 hour-long breaks throughout the day. But the amount of work that I get done in between there is astronomical.
Yeah. Raising your vibration.
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting how that works, and it just comes with practice, like you said, a little bit of practicing and really learning how to become aware of what is going on in your body and what the chemicals are actually doing. I am still working really, really hard on mastering my fight or flight not kicking in. So my body right now is still in certain situations trying to tell my mind that I'm scared and I'm freaked out and I can't do this, but I can. And so I'm using different techniques right now. One of my last episodes that I was recording with Chuck Huber, and he started talking about cold plunging and cold work and stuff like that. And so I'm using other different natural techniques to try to work on that. But it has not been lost on me today. I realized that for the past 6 or 7 times that I have went in to do a job at the church that I just learned how to do, which is run a technical thing on the computer. We're not going to get into it because but it's difficult for me. I'm not a tech person. I'm just not. But I've been determined that I'm going to learn how to do this. And after weeks and weeks I'm talking about going up there to the point of almost panic every Sunday. I practice on Wednesdays. We run through on Sunday mornings, and then we have our service. But every time I started a ritual before every service. And this is actually something I've written down on a paper here. It's Exodus 3:11, and it says, God says, you provide the obedience, I'll provide the power. You obey, and I'll show you the way. And I've gotten to where, do I?
Wow, that right there is my healing in a verse. That's
right
it.
I'm telling you, I keep it right here so I can look at it. And I started saying that to myself in the mirror before I would go behind the booth on Sunday to actually do the show, not the show, but to do my part for the service. And it occurred to me this week, I ended up with a really bad headache on Wednesday, was not able to go in due to this headache. I knew I would not be able to take the music and everything. And as I was texting them and I was telling them I wasn't going to be able to come in, it occurred to me that it had become a pattern. That I had been doing this for so long that at this point, with all of the stuff that I've learned about rewiring your brain and the repetitive behavior, I thought at this point, my brain knows that I can do this, because every single Sunday service, come 11 o'clock, I turn it on and everything is like it's supposed to be. And it was really difficult for me to deal with that night, but that's actually how I rid myself of that headache. I laid down and I meditated with some music on about what in the world would be making me so scared to go up there and do that. And I finally realized it's really just my fight or flight. My body is trying to tell my mind actually that I'm scared. So that's what I'm working on right now. That kind of got deep.
It's a good example.
Yeah. So it was craziness. Let me see right here what else I have. We're at time actually. Did anybody have anything on there?
You have the verse on paper?
Yes. Right here.
They're actually asking me to put in the comments.
Okay. If anybody has any questions, now would be the time to post them.
I want to mention we have in addition to the practice that I have and the nutraceuticals company that has commercialized 6 products, we also have an accredited College of Natural Medicine, and I just wanted people to know it's basically it's a college that I had founded. It's online, and we have certification programs through doctorate programs in a wide variety of different subject matter for natural medicine. And we have very easy payment plans. It's all online. It's a wonderful way to get into natural healing, either for your own personal use or if you want to open a practice. We take you through that whole process of how to open your practice. So basically, I'm providing what I looked for many, many years ago and couldn't find. There are other wonderful schools around, but we really try to provide a program that is customized to the students' goals. So we put together customized programs for you.
I love that. I did not realize it was customized that way.
Do you want to read these?
We don't force you to fit into our mold, whatever you're wanting to do. And it's very personal. We have an interview and find out really how you want to use this, what your background is, and whatever it is, we customize a program for you.
Yeah.
Depending on your family culture, your interests, and your goals of how you want to use the education when you get out. And we also honor past education that you have in the field. A lot of the colleges are a little bit exclusive about what they will transfer, but we try to do everything that we can that is relevant to your degree program. So I don't know, I just wanted to let that be known. We have a wonderful school.
Oh, that's so exciting. And I'm going to have you give all of the information before we completely close out about how they can get a hold of you and everything. I'm
Sure.
excited. Let's see what we got going on here. Looking at some comments. Miss Melissa Bennett said Reiki. She said it's on my list next. She said it's fire.
It is great.
Yes, lots of comments about Reiki actually. Positive comments about Reiki. Exciting. What are 3 steps or simple sayings to help with self-healing and battling to help overcome? What would be 3 steps or simple sayings to help with self-healing or battling? So I guess dialogue.
I think self-love is, when you consider love as being 750 hertz on the scale. Do you know what I'm talking about? The vibrational scale that's talked about in Power versus Force. If you consider love as being 750, and you consider a body begins to break down in death at 25, if you are ill and you're trying to raise your vibration out of illness, and by illness I can even contribute this to even trauma or mental illness or addiction or whatever you're talking about, any kind of illness, holistically speaking. When you consider love as being 750, it's on up there. The highest is 1,000, and that's in an ascended state.
Mm-hmm.
When you begin to love yourself, completely love and accept yourself, you are raising yourself out of despair, illness, trauma.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything that doesn't apply.
Yeah.
Immediately, you're raising yourself to the highest degree.
Mm-hmm.
I think love of self and love of others. When you truly love yourself, you can't help but to love others. When you see the divinity in yourself, you cannot help but to see the divinity in others, and vice versa. I think you can do that too. When you see the divinity in others, then you can see it in yourself.
I agree. I just want to piggyback off of that. I want to add the word grace in behind love.
Yes, good one.
Yeah, because when you love someone,
Good
then you
one.
give them grace.
Good one.
Got me crying. What is that? See?
It occurs to me that those things of the highest vibration are the things that we think of as the examples of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Think of forgiveness,
Yes.
love, compassion, and grace. Those 4. We gave 4. There you go. That's it.
See,
That's it.
There you go.
Love, forgiveness, love of self, love of others, forgiveness of self, forgiveness of others, grace for self, grace for others. And what was that other one I said? Compassion.
Compassion.
Be kind to yourself, be kind to others.
Yeah,
Compassion.
absolutely. What are something we can work on for higher vibrational energy? I wonder if she means like physical things. What are some things we can work on for higher vibrational energy? I think that kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think in the 3D world, it's I call it the 3D world. I have so many funny, I talk about it so differently now.
One more time. Tell me what that was. One more time.
The question was, what are some things we can work on for higher vibrational energy?
You know, I think it's really important. I don't know if this addresses this question, but I think it may. I think it's really important to realize that the higher vibrations carry the stronger power, so that you can walk into a room and change. If there's a negative collective energy in a place, your positive frequency exchange is more powerful, and it can even overcome a population of lower frequency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is how change happens within a group or a family of dysfunction,
Mm-hmm.
is by being the catalyst of a higher vibration.
Mm-hmm.
Rather being pulled into the existing vibration of negativity, you can alter that collective vibrational frequency through
Mm-hmm.
the four that we discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, hold on, there's something.
And those positive frequencies are stronger, and they will overcome. They will have power over the force
Mm-hmm.
of lower frequencies.
Yeah, and the lower frequencies, like we talked about, guys, if y'all remember from the previous series that we did over mindset and mind hacking and vibrational energy and stuff, there's going to be like the primitive. There's going to be the anger. That's going to be anger, sadness.
Fear is at the very bottom of the list.
Yes. Sorry.
Fear is the most. Fear is probably the lowest frequency.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then I don't know where I've heard this. I keep quoting this. I want someone to look it up for me, I guess is why I keep quoting it. But I had heard somewhere, I think I've done this on 3 shows now, that when you get into a primitive or a lower vibration state of mind, that I believe it's 10 to 20% of your brain actually shuts off from being able to have the capacity of making sound decisions, which I found fascinating.
I would definitely go along with that.
Yeah.
I would definitely go along with it.
I thought that was fascinating. I mean, it helps you understand and maybe even help yourself if you're dealing with anger issues or something like that, to be able to look at it and to understand that it is going to be a process in order to change that, and to have grace for others when they're going through that as well.
I think there is not also the realization. I don't think a lot of people realize that a majority of that, 90% of the brain that we don't use. I don't think that's fair, because I don't think that's true with everyone. But that is the spiritual element of the brain. There is a spiritual molecule in the chemistry of a brain, and it's DMT. Mm-hmm. And that is the spiritual, that is the molecule, that is the brain chemistry that allows us in our neurological processing to experience a spiritual activity or a spiritual experience. So there is a neurological process
Mhm.
to belief and spirituality.
Mhm.
And so when you go back to what you just said, I believe that is so true, because when you get in those lower vibrations, you begin to divorce or separate yourself from the most populated, the most present, the majority of your neurological activity is being that of a spiritual nature.
Mhm. This is some fascinating stuff, guys. I mean, it's fascinating. We're going to have to do a whole show on the neuroscience behind this.
I love it.
Oh,
I
me
love
too.
it.
Like, it's my favorite.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I know we've went over on time, but I wanted you to get a chance to tell everybody how they can find you.
I'm just going to get okay. My website is www.v as in Victor, ITAEPONDERA.com. It's Vitae Pondera, which is Latin for life balanced. And also our college, you can get that through www.vpcnm, and it's simply Vitae Pondera College of Natural Medicine, the acronym for that. .org, not .com, .org.
Awesome.
So phone numbers 903-569-9913, or our Florida number is 561-613-7569, and you can call or text, and I answer my own phones and talk to you, and whatever you have going and need to have some direction on, I'm certainly here to help you. And you can also text on those numbers. I get text. I answer the text pretty quick, so that's usually my main form.
Awesome. That's so awesome. Well, we got everything in the comments. Yeah, people's minds are blown right now. I'm getting I'm getting some gestures back here. So everybody's excited. So we're absolutely going to have you on probably many times over.
I'd love to. There's so many subjects I love to talk about. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of your information and sharing a little bit about your story with us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, everybody, this is going to conclude this episode, and I believe it's 18. And I'm actually going to be on vacation next week. So I will see you the following week for a brand new interview. So I want to thank you guys, and let's remember that we are not of this world.